And welcome into another episode of the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. I'm Ben Mandel, joined by Tom Leone, Mikey Dykunzak back on with us as we get set to break down this past week of hockey. And as you know, we are Devils and Ranger fans here, and the Devils and Rangers renewed the Hudson River rivalry. That always is a nice
It
little
is a
tongue twister.
tongue twister for a rivalry. It is.
Yeah, like rivalry is what throws you. But yeah, the Hudson River rivalry renewed again, first meeting this year, and it was the Rangers who came out on top. And I don't know about you, Mike, but when the Devils scored right away in the third period, I was feeling pretty good. I thought, maybe we'll be all right. I was excited to have Jack back, who, I mean, what do you know? Right on the board right away. But Tom, we got to give you the floor because ultimately it was your Rangers who not only came out on top, but Mike and I both have the Rangers as our first place team in our power rankings that came out. So, tell us about it. Igor comes out, says what he says about the Devils, not winning the cup, so it doesn't matter. Ultimately, I agree with him. But, how important was it for the Rangers just to kind of expel that demon right off the bat, especially in the Rock?
I think the biggest takeaway, and it's funny, you guys both have a number one, I have a number two, and after Monday night showing against the Stars, I kind of want to put him at 10, but that's just the how I am when it comes to the Rangers. But to go back to your question, I think the biggest thing, honestly, was seeing Lavallette's system against the Devils. I know they were without Nico, but I don't know if you guys agree with this from a hockey standpoint, but it was a lot less of Devils dictating the pace of play and the Rangers hitting them on a counter. And it was more of kind of like just Rangers dominated at this point. Devils had their points of domination, but it seemed like a lot more evenly skated game. I didn't feel like the Devils were circling around the Rangers. And I think the Rangers really did a good job of maintaining the neutral zone, which really hampered them. Like Gallant not having a system is why the Devils were easily able to dominate the Rangers for large parts of pretty much every game they played because there was no system in place. There was no neutral zone system. Guys like Jack Hughes, if they wanted to be a little more aggressive on offense, right, and their defensive zone, were able to break out a lot of odd man rushes. The Rangers, the system Laviolette has in place, it always gave the Devils fits with Washington, and I think the Rangers played a really, really good game, and I think the game was closer. Full honestly, I'm not discounting the Devils. I think Igor was a little shaky. I think both goalies were shaky, but I think Igor let in some goals he typically wouldn't if he wasn't coming off a week and a half off. And I think that credit to the Devils getting Jack back, played well. I just think it was really good to see the Rangers kind of dominating at a long stretches of those games of that game. And the system to me is what really stuck out. I was just happy the Devils weren't skating around the Rangers, which is what I saw all of last year. Just the game, every game they played, there were long stretches where it was just Devils are going. When are they going to score 2 or 3 goals? And the Rangers are kind of just taking the pressure. This game felt like the Rangers were putting the pressure on a lot more than I saw in the last couple of years. So it was good to see. I'm not taking one win. It's like, oh my God, they're gonna, beat the Devils in a 7-game series. It just it felt
obviously yes, and look, you bring up a good point. The Devils are without Nico, and while Igor a little shaky, little rusty coming off of missing that stretch. Jack's missed about a month, and for that as well, he's a little bit rusty. Yeah, he may not have looked like it to outside of a Devils fan, but Mike will attest to this. We that's not what we're seeing out of Jack Hughes day in and day out. We're now accustomed to seeing a Hart Trophy nominee. So yeah, we definitely understand you're not saying that, but I do agree with you. I think Laviolette's system is the biggest difference, and just that structure alone, let alone giving the Devils fits. I think that structure alone has been so beneficial to the younger guys on this team for the Rangers. It's put the development back on track. I think that's the best way to put it. For the
the young
the
players don't have to think
exactly. Lafreniere, Hedel, even Kako to an extent. These guys are able to not have to do too much on their own. There's not too much decision making for them. They just go out there, they're playing, they fit their system, they do their job. And I mean, for Loff, it's paying off. He's been great so far. But
yeah, it's so true.
Now over to the other side, though, the flip side, Mike, let's get your thoughts on the game, because I know the sky has been falling in New Jersey, especially in Newark. Jack's back. Nico's been practicing. He's not going to play on Wednesday, but expect Nico back after Thanksgiving. So, I think better days are on the horizon. But Mike, let's hear your thoughts, because I think we've had 3 weeks without hearing from you.
No, I mean, when it comes to the Devils, I mean, with the game alone, the Devils Rangers game, I'm going to give the Rangers their kudos. I mean, I feel like I've been doing that for the last few weeks, especially on this podcast, everything like that. Because the Rangers they're a good team. They're probably one of the most complete teams in the NHL right now. They're playing like it. You said it. Their new coaching system is definitely benefiting these guys. Tom probably is going to talk about Panarin's playing at MVP level right now, Hart Trophy level right now. He's unbelievable, and just a resurrection of obviously Lafa's still young and everything like that, but the way that his career is looking to be panning out just from off this season alone, just this little sample size, it's promising of what he can do and what it's coming out of. So props to the Rangers. They outplayed the Devils in that third period. You said it best, Ben. I thought they had a really good chance when they took that go-ahead lead, and the Rangers just capitalized. They're good at that. They're good at coming back in games. They're good at keeping teams around or keeping themselves around, and they ended up taking the win. And with the Devils, what I'm probably the most disappointed in, and it sucks because VTech played such a good game until probably the end of the third period. It's just the goaltending for me and the Devils. Everything. It's good to have Jack back. He was around the ice. He was everywhere. We obviously need Nico back. If this team's fully healthy, the better is going to come for them. We saw the beginning stretch of them and how good they could be. It's just a goaltending for me. They're ranked like 30th in the league. They have like a -8, saves above expected, or -8. My apologies. So the goaltending is just not good in New Jersey right now. And I feel like last year, it was something that was just good enough to get them over the top with the talent that they had. And now this year, I feel like it's really showing in place and how it can really affect them. So better things are ahead for the Devils, though. I think when they get fully healthy, and I think they'll be a competitive team. I think they will make the playoffs, but kudos to the Rangers, how good they've been. And the Devils just got to see how they go when they get healthy.
Yeah. And, you bring up a point about Artemi Panarin for MVP for Hart. And, you and I have talked about Jack before the injury, winning the Hart, but Panarin easily has to be in this conversation. How many goals now has he scored? This guy's
I think it's 10 goal. I think he's got like, I don't know, 27 points.
He's scored in every game. He has scored in every game,
He had
whether it's an
multi-point
assist or a
games in
goal.
except last Monday night, his streak ended, but he had multi-point games in like 6 or 7 straight or 8 straight.
Yeah, Panarin's been unbelievable. So Tom, I mean, make your case, because this guy definitely needs to be at the top of the conversation. I understand McDavid's back, but I mean, he has to be at the top of this conversation right now.
The reason why I feel like he's got to be at the top of this conversation is because just look at Mika Zibanejad stats. Look at Chris Kreider's stats. They're having down years, and this team has had their best start since 1994. I mean, the only way that happens is if you have a Hart caliber player playing top of his game, and they were without Igor for 5 or 6 games. It's because of Artemi Panarin. It's that second line, him driving the offense, the power play. They lose Adam Fox. They lose one of the best power play quarterbacks in the league, if not, probably like top 3 easily, right? And they don't miss a beat. Why? Give credit to Eric Gustafsson. He's been playing great this year on that low contract. Rangers got to extend him, but it's because Panarin. The reason why the Rangers have had this hot start is because they're a superstar, like Jack Hughes has done for the Devils in the past, like McDavid does, like Austin Matthews does, or William Nylander does. McKinnon in Colorado has finally stepped up to the plate. Zibanejad's a nice player. Kreider's a nice player. They're not Artemi Panarin caliber.
Yeah, they're not batteries.
Yes, he is yet to have this type of start with the Rangers. He has, and look at what the Rangers are doing. It's always been him, and it's going to be him in the playoffs all the time. If he can continue it this year, you don't want to play the Rangers, because at any moment, just like you don't want to play the Devils or the Oilers, I'll name those teams again. Those guys can just take over, and it's hard to beat teams when that's the case.
This year, I think we're going to see the best Hart Trophy race since we saw Taylor Hall win it when he was going up against Giroux and Kopitar. I think that because typically you just have one star just take it over. It's been McDavid will just take it over. Crosby will just take it over. Ovechkin will just take it over. Matthews, like one of these guys will just take over the race and run with it. I think this year there's been so much, especially, there's some injuries here and there, but there's just been so much parity with the superstars in this league. It really has been incredible. But
sorry, we change the subject here. The one thing about this Ranger Devil matchup again that I want to bring up that was surprising to me from watching the Devils, their defense has been it's not as good as I remember it
Well,
being.
and
Marino
this is
looks
what
like he's a step slower.
I was telling you
Hamilton
this last
has no
week.
business in the defensive zone. Yeah.
Like they miss and Ryan Graves, they lose
Mhm.
him. That's a huge one to lose. Damon Severson, they lose. Those are guys that were enabling Dougie Hamilton to jump up in the rush. I mean, with the way the Devils are playing their defense right now, Luke Hughes is partnering with Dougie Hamilton. You cannot have two defensemen that think they're forwards playing on the same pair. You just can't do it. And
That's very true.
so that's where you're going to see the issues with Dougie Hamilton. Dougie was playing with, Jonas Siegenthaler or Ryan Graves. Graves was playing with Marino. So Marino, both Graves and Marino, that was their stay home, shut down best pair defensively last year. Dougie Hamilton didn't have to go up against the best offensive forward lines because, he's sitting out there with Jonas Siegenthaler, good stay home block shot defenseman. Now, all of a sudden, Dougie Hamilton, his role has increased. I understand he's been on the big contract the entire time he's been in New Jersey, but his role has jumped, and that's why you're going to see
winning goal for VC. I know VTech gave up a basketball like rebound. John Marino was so lazy. I mean, VC just wanted that puck more than Marino.
Well, and that's where and you don't typically see that out of John Marino.
No, you don't. You don't.
That is 100% just maybe he didn't realize VC was right there, but I
don't
think
know plays that I don't remember seeing last year, and I know I'm nitpicking at this point, but
and it's one game, right?
But you have multiple of those. You don't win as many games as the year before,
and that's where losing Severson is huge. Graves was Marino's defensive partner. Now all of a sudden, Marino, his role increases, his responsibilities increase, so he has more that he needs to do while he's out there. But I do want to just shift over. I do want to move off of Devils and Rangers because one of the teams that, they weren't terrible to start the year. They've been absolutely god-awful since the calendar has shifted to November. On November 2nd, the Columbus Blue Jackets beat Tampa Bay. Since then, they lost to Washington, lost in overtime to Florida, lost to Dallas, lost to Detroit, lost in a shootout to the Rangers, lost to the Penguins, lost to the Coyotes, lost again to Washington before losing 5-2 to Philadelphia on Sunday. They end up, they're playing at home against Chicago before Thanksgiving to try and get one more win. But boy, oh boy, has Columbus been awful. The injuries are piling up. Patrick Laine was a healthy scratch the other day. I mean, I think Severson's hurt. Like, what is going on in Columbus? I know this was not a good team. We expected them to be bad, but I don't know. It wasn't this bad.
Yeah, just talking about the world is ending for them. It is crazy, Ben. That list, that run. I took a look at it before we got on here because I know it was one of the topics, and I was like, "Holy cow!" Especially because the last win that they had, it's pretty significant. It was against a good team, and you're like, okay, maybe tides are a little turning here for Columbus, and they have the talent, and in order to do that, and then now the injury bug is hit, and they're healthy scratching one of their star players. I don't know what's going on in Columbus. I know you're asking, but I really don't have an answer for you. It is kind of crazy to see. Obviously, I think in our prediction pod, I didn't have Columbus, being any remotely good as it is. No. But it is just crazy. This run that they're on is probably the most negative run I've seen in some time.
Well, they started 3-4-2. They're now 4-11-4. Like,
it's up there with San Jose. Basically, San Jose start. It's kind of up there with the stretch of hockey. That's how bad it's been.
Well, and that's the thing. They have one more win than the San Jose Sharks. Granted, the Sharks do have 5 less points because of the loser points as well. 3 more loser points for Columbus, but it has been atrocious in Columbus.
It has been. I don't know what it is. I mean, the Gaudreau contract's looking like a nightmare. It just seems like he went there for the money. He has no business. Patrick Laine is going to get traded. I think again. Yeah. I don't know, man. I really just think this whole offseason heading into the season is just a mess over there. They're gonna they need some type of serious shakeup from the top and to change anything because those players aren't playing. They're not in it for the coach. They're just like San Jose. They're just playing for the wrong reasons, and their stars are just collecting a paycheck, and you don't want that. Tough to play. Like we mentioned it in previous pods, tough to go to work happy on a Tuesday in Columbus when it's the Columbus Blue Jackets versus, the Calgary Flames. Like you're not going to get up for it when the situation is what it is. So you're going to collect your paycheck and hopefully get traded to a contender when the trade deadline comes around.
Yeah, leading scorer for Columbus right now, Ivan Provorov with 12 points. So
they made some decent moves. Like they made some decent moves this offseason. I just think the Babcock situation is just completely derailed.
Well, and that's what we were talking about that in our preview episode about how, the whole Babcock thing is just so hard to bounce back from. But speaking of, Provorov, defenseman leading Columbus in points, there's another defenseman leading his team in points. This guy is also leading the league in points, and that's Quinn Hughes. He has 30 points now on the season. Did you guys see this coming?
Goal?
Like, I mean, even if it like a month ago, if you had said a Hughes will be leading the league in points, if you told me it was Quinn, I would have thought you were crazy. But I mean, if Jack gets on a tear once he's back, right? If he gets back onto the pace he was on before he got hurt, we could very well see Jack and Quinn lead the league in points.
Shout out to the Hughes family, baby. No, it is
seriously,
awesome.
Devils fans,
the devil dream.
Devils fans just have, even without Quinn, have to thank Jack's mom and dad, right? You just have to.
You got to thank the ping pong ball too, bouncing in a certain direction.
Yeah, both times. The fact that they were able to get Luke as well, because Luke might be the best player out of that draft.
Yeah, it's 100% true. And we all know the Jack situation. If the ping pong ball doesn't scoop up or swing up a certain way, he's wearing Broadway blue and you guys are stuck with Capo Caco. So I know your
Jack Hughes.
We were clapping. I get.
Can you imagine Jack Hughes with Panarin and Zibanejad?
No, I can't. So let's not talk about it because they probably would have 2 cups by now. So let's not.
Well, it took Jack a little bit of time.
But they don't have Igor, so it would have accelerated for Jack.
Fair. But yeah, Mike, sorry to cut you off there.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's exciting for him. It's definitely a big surprise, I'd say, coming into this season. If you said it best, if there was any Hughes that you would think that would be leading the league in points, you would think it would probably be Jack, right? Because and everything he was probably on that pace. And what Quinn is doing over in Vancouver, I mean, they're definitely a team to watch out for. And they're very talented, and he just leads the charge. Tom said it best about Adam Fox for the Rangers, about being like the quarterback for the Rangers. And when he is there, that's what Quinn is for Vancouver. And that's why they're excelling so much this year. So good for him. And, he definitely deserved that C on his chest that he just got. It's going to go a long way. And I think he'll continue this pace. He looks so good right now.
I think like Rick Tocchet just energized this whole group, including Quinn Hughes.
I think Quinn unlocked them.
He really did unlock them, especially Quinn, because Quinn always had this talent, but wasn't the numbers. I mean, granted, a couple years ago, the numbers backed it up. I mean, he's always been looked at as a premier defenseman. I just think over the last couple
and Hughes have never done this.
Never, ever, not to this level, and that's why the Canucks are what they are. I mean, we're talking about Hart trophies. I was going to bring this up as well, but Quinn's right up there. I mean, it has to be. I know defensemen don't get a lot of love in that category, but what's Quinn? What are the Canucks without Quinn Hughes playing like this? Right? They're probably middle of the pack. They're not as good as they are right now, but also it's been impressive to me.
Something that you have to point out with Vancouver. I mean, 12 months ago, they were talking about blowing it up. This is a team that was ready to blow it up. I mean, there were talks of the Devils going in and trying to get Quinn Hughes, saying Quinn Hughes came out and said, I don't want to be a part of another rebuild here in Vancouver.
They traded Bo Horvat.
Well, but in that Bo Horvat trade, the pieces that they got back I couldn't believe the Islanders sent them over. I mean, you guys heard me go on about that trade.
I remember, yeah.
When it comes to this, though, Tocchet sat him down and said, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what we can do with this group. We're not blowing it up. And it's paying off for Vancouver. Now, there's one last team we need to talk about, and it's really this month, they've been the inverse Columbus. They lost their first game of the month, while Columbus won their first game of the month. Since then, the Capitals have gotten points in every game since, a 6-game point streak. Their one loss came in overtime to Florida. They beat Columbus, they beat New Jersey, they beat the Islanders, they beat Vegas, and then they beat Columbus again. So while, yeah, maybe the competition wasn't too great with 2 games against the Columbus Blue Jackets, they beat the New Jersey Devils. They were without Jack Hughes in that game, I believe. They did go ahead and beat the New York Islanders 4-1. It wasn't one of those where the Islanders had a lead and blew it. They actually came out and beat them. They shut out Vegas. I think that's probably the most impressive one. I know that one was in Washington. Anytime a team's coming west to east, it's tough. But is Washington good? Or is this just a hot stretch for a young team?
Hot stretch for a young team, and Charlie Lindgren's been great. The goaltending's been a little hot over the last couple of weeks. I think it's just a hot stretch for a young team with 3 players that are having really good weeks. Ovechkin's been playing well. Carlson's been playing well. Kuznetsov been playing well. They're playing good hockey right now against inferior opponents, given, not who you play when you play them, right? The Devils without Jack Hughes. They have an impressive win against Vegas, but I think it's just a hot streak for a young team with some greasy veterans that are also playing decent, and I think it's going to catch up to them. They're going to go 6 games without a point, or 6-game losing streak. It's going to happen again. They'll be up and down. They'll finish 5th or 6th in the Metro, and we won't be talking about them come February or March.
They were brutal to start the year, but they're 9-4-2. Their 15 games played is fewest in the Metro, and they currently sit 3rd in the Metropolitan Division. Who's in 2nd? The Philadelphia Flyers. So, look,
and we're at the Thanksgiving break, man. We brought up that stat a couple pods ago.
For the Flyers'
over 50% chance to make the playoffs.
Here's the thing with the Flyers, though, is they've played more games than everybody. I mean, the Flyers have 21 points. The Devils have 17. And the Flyers have played 2 more games. So I give or take on this one with the amount of games played being so different for everybody right now. The Flyers have played a lot more. Washington's played a lot less. But, Mike, let's get your thoughts on Washington, because Tom doesn't think they're good. Do you think they're good?
I'm actually on the same page with Tom. I think it's just a hot streak right now. I think it's a hot stretch. I mean, but Tom makes some good points, and it just what makes me realize is these veterans that they have on this team. They're kind of like flies on the wall. They just won't go away. And I know they're a young team, and but the veterans that they have, they help enhance their play, and that's why the Capitals are always relevant, because of those guys in the veteran side of things. But I do, like you said, the competition you named, and I know that the good teams that they faced in that stretch, they probably weren't full health. I think it's just a hot stretch right now. But I wouldn't be shocked if I'm wrong, though, because it is Washington. These guys just don't go away.
Yeah, Washington was one of those teams that kind of hung around the playoff positioning for the first half of the year last year. So it wouldn't be too surprising to me if they were able to hang around and be better. Like Tom was saying, though, Charlie Lindgren has been very good for them. Even Hunter Shepard has come up and gotten a couple of wins. Darcy Kemper, I don't think he's been very good. His save percentage is below 90%. His goals against is above 3. But Lindgren has been strong. And offensively, Ovechkin has turned it on. I think he went the first 4 games without a point. He's up to 12 now on the season. John Carlson has been very good with 8 assists, and I think Dylan Strome is the catalyst here. He's got 7 goals, and he's one of those guys that he reminds me of when the Devils brought Mike Camilleri in back in 2016 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Team that's not going anywhere, but he's gonna go and provide goals. Now, I understand Strome wasn't a piece that was brought in like Camilleri, but I think that's the role that Strome is playing. And while, maybe Washington may not be good, Strome may be a piece that they can trade that will
got a nice haul back.
kickstart. Exactly. He's going to kickstart this rebuild. Washington has a lot of pieces. If they continue playing the way they're playing, they can get some assets in return. Sonny Milano's another one. Depending on what Kuznetsov wants to do, you may be able to ship him out of there. Carlson's another one. Teams always need help on the back end. Goaltending, if Lindgren is playing well, a team like New Jersey, let's say they're one goaltending injury away from just needing someone to, plug and place. In terms of New Jersey goaltending, though, that's something we'll get into a whole nother time, because
that could be a whole pod.
It is so frustrating having the team.
They're that piece away from being absolutely dominant for the next 10 years.
But like, as a Devils fan, you see it right there.
It's Brodeur, yeah.
We never had this problem. I'm not used to it.
Yeah, I don't have the Brodeur cups. My whole life went from Lundqvist to Igor. I don't have the cups that Brodeur brought you guys, but I don't have to worry about it.
And like, if you think, look at the Ranger fans even before you. We were talking about this when I went to the Devils Rangers game, in the playoffs. You went from Richter to Lundqvist to Igor. It's been a very
2 or 3 years before Lundqvist came up, but yeah, you're right. Yeah, Kevin
but still, come on.
Yeah,
if the Devils went and were able to turn around and have 3 years in between Brodeur and the next elite generational goaltender, I would be thrilled.
True.
But look, it's been a tough one. I think New Jersey's going to be fine. They're going to right the ship. They're still a playoff team. I'm not in any way, shape, or form worried. As you saw with Florida last year, Just get in. The Devils were fine playing on the road last year in the postseason. Home ice is important.
Maybe avoid the Metro. Maybe avoid the Ranger Carolina first 2 rounds. I don't know.
I don't know.
They're gonna finish top 3. I'm just messing.
No. Hey, at the end of the day, if you can get into the Boston and Tampa, Toronto bracket, who knows? Maybe that is a little bit better, but. That is going to do it for us here on the Outsider Sports Hockey Podcast. We appreciate everybody tuning in, listening in. We will be back after Thanksgiving. We're going to continue bringing you guys the pod. We'll keep having the power rankings out every week at outsidersports.net. Make sure you subscribe to YouTube. Follow us on X at Outsider Sports 3. And, keep checking us out. We're going to be back. Have another great week. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And we'll be back for December.